Trends, they are everywhere. Everything is a trend. The things you like now, you're not gonna like in a month or two because they'll be replaced by something else. And then a year or so on, you're gonna remember, oh yeah, I used to like that thing. Why did I stop liking that thing? I should like that thing again. And so the trend repeats itself, and gaming is no different. So this is the top 7 next big gaming trends. The show where I'm gonna predict exactly what's gonna become big in gaming in the next couple of years. If you don't know how to spot a trend, I'm gonna break it down for you. Battle Royale games. We're in the middle of the Battle Royale game. The current king of it being PlayerUnknown's Battleground. Before it, there was the survival trend brought about by DayZ, and to a certain extent Minecraft. The zombie trend, in which we're all kinda still in, and it won't die because it's a goddamn zombie. The roguelike trend that's continuously ongoing and kind of infuriating to a point. The exploration narrative trend. You know, the walking simulators. The RPG shooter with random loot drops trend. Oh, it didn't start with Destiny. Destiny just made it even bigger. It didn't even start with Borderlands, though it is kind of one of the factors that spearheaded this entire trend as it is now. And it's gonna keep on going until we find something new. Something new, by the way, not being open world games with towers and stuff you do randomly around it, with no real substance, which is kind of gaming as we know it now. It's all just a trend, so it'll pass soon, I hope. Just like the modern military shooter did, and many others. That being said, let's get it started with number 7. The Nemesis System. When Shadow of Mordor pioneered this idea, it seemed like the greatest thing ever. Sadly, it was paired up with a game that, well, apart from Warner Bros. Being kind of complete sacks of phalluses when it came to actually letting people review this game properly and not seem like it was gonna be absolutely horrible and they were paying people to say it wasn't. Shadow of Mordor was kinda the Ubisoft game, the game, but with an amazing Nemesis system that was being stifled by the rest of the game. But the new one, it doesn't look like it's horrible. Okay, not that the other one was horrible, it was just lame for the most part. But the new one, Shadow of War, looks better, it looks funnier, it looks like it has actual character, and they amped the Nemesis system up a zillion points. That thing is probably gonna turn heads, it's gonna make big bucks, and it's going to make a lot of other people think, you know what, we should do something like this, and they will. So you're gonna see a lot more games popping up that have similar ideas, that have their own Nemesis system, that are built around the concept of a Nemesis system, and it's gonna be probably really neat to see all the evolution that was going to take place, and maybe one of those games will actually be kind of okay. We would hope for them to be good, but you know that they're often not. Number 6. Yandere Hitman Games. Now, originally I was going to have the Settler Survival kind of game here, but this trend has already kind of started. There's been quite a lot of games announced that are sort of city or colony builder games that have a very large survival aspect. Even Paradox just announced one a couple of weeks ago. So instead, we are probably going to be seeing a trend of games similar to Hitman and of course to Yandere Simulator, which may end up being called Lovesick. If you don't know what that game is about, it's Hitman, but you keep having to go back to the scene of the crime because you're a high school student and you kill people in your high school because you're playing a mentally unstable character. That may not seem like it's something that's gonna become a trend, but trust me, it already is big. Like the developer of Yandere Simulator, which is basically just one person, is already being very well financed by a community of people that want to see that kind of game. And every update he puts out gets 1 million views at the least. That's interest. That is a lot of interest. And when that game reaches a certain boiling point, or maybe when the new Hitman game gets season 2 and it turns out to be even bigger and better and explodes, you're gonna see a bunch of people try and do similar games. Games about social assassination. and I don't mean socially assassinate someone, but assassinate someone in a more social, more civilian environment, not a well-guarded military base, and then try to cover up your crimes, try to place the blame on someone else, basically getting away with murder simulators. In the game fun way, not in the this is a training mission for your inevitable conversion to the way of life of a CIA, KGB, SRI, Mossad agent that's gonna travel around the world and do horrible things to people that may or may not deserve it without blowing your cover. Now keep in mind, at their basis, these games are really well-crafted puzzle games, and those can sell very well. Not only that, but they can be extremely fun to play, especially if they are built using systems that interact with other systems, so you don't get the exact same experience every time. So watch out for more Hitman games, more Yandere-like games in the future. Number 5. Low gravity and zero gravity games. When Unreal Tournament 3 came out, it had a very neat feature that allowed you to place a power-up, or not a power-up, but a sort of deployable on the map that would suspend gravity. The game itself had issues, but that was a neat feature. But it didn't really take off then. Well, there was the game made by, I believe it was Future Mark, Shattered Horizon, which was in zero gravity, but again, it didn't really take off. But now, it seems that it's sort of starting to take off. I mean, we've had zero gravity levels in Prey, but most of all, in the multiplayer FPS genre, with your Quakes, your Unreal Tournaments, your Overwatches, your Team Fortresses, we have Lawbreakers coming in. And Lawbreakers in terms of gameplay looks absolutely bananas, because there's low gravity, no gravity, centralized gravity upon a single object in space that's not tied into the rest of the level. It's a gravity bonanza, and it looks like it may actually have success. It looks like it may actually take off, especially since honestly Quake Champions is boring as hell. Side note, Bethesda, if you want to make Quake Champions interesting, remove the weapons from Quake because they were boring as hell 20 years ago. Put something interesting instead. Back to this idea. This hinges a lot on if Lawbreakers or games inspired by it, the first ones, have success. Because if they do, you're gonna be seeing a lot of this mechanic used in many different games. And not necessarily as a throwaway, as something relegated to a single level, but as the core mechanic. Actually, a couple of hours ago I saw at E3 that there is a game that's basically the combat room from Ender's Game, where there was no gravity and people were shooting each other in zero-G. Well, technically speaking, Star Citizen has the exact same idea. It's got a very similar battle arena. So this trend is coming. It's coming hard and fast. Number 4. Dark Souls, but good. Now, before you throw tomatoes at me again, let me explain. Ask yourself, after the Dark Souls games, have there been any absolutely good clones? Lords of the Fallen wasn't all that good. The new one, The Surge, seems to be a bit better, but has there been one of them that outshined the Dark Souls? Well, yeah, there's Bloodborne, but that's still made by the same company and it's kind of in the same general idea. What we currently lack is another Dark Soul that's at the same level of quality. So if you're just here to throw tomatoes at me, no, I don't mean that the Dark Souls games are bad. I just mean that their clones, the ones not made by From Software, are not as good, okay? You can now press the X in the corner if you were just here because of Dark Souls, okay? Good, thanks. Are they gone? Okay, the Dark Souls games are annoying as crap, and someone really needs to make a game like Dark Souls that doesn't have broken mechanics, repetition until you feel your eyes are bleeding, and a combat system that's more akin to what Severance had, or at least Jedi Knight, and not the dodge roll bonanza that was Dark Souls. I'm not asking for a game that's easier. Oh no. I want one that's gonna be hard, but one that's hard for good reasons, not one that's hard because you just get tired of it. Because suddenly the enemies turn into something you could not have predicted, and well, you had no clue this was gonna happen, so now you're gonna die and you're gonna restart at the last bonfire up a while ago, and you're gonna have to come back here, and you're gonna have to do this again, and then I'm gonna turn against something else and we're gonna have to do this again. No. a game that's actually difficult and rewarding, but one that doesn't absolutely hate the player and doesn't have a community whose sole reaction to someone saying, hey, why did that guy hit me? His sword should have gotten stuck in the wall. It just clipped through the wall and hit me, is get good, noob. For some reason they sound sort of Canadian. Imagine a more accessible Dark Souls game, but that doesn't actually skimp on the difficulty. That thing will take off, more of them will show up, and it's gonna be the new dominant genre for a while in terms of RPG action stuff. It will be, I guarantee it. Oh crud, are they back? No, I did not say anything bad about Dark Souls. No, you don't need to scroll back in the timeline. No, Dark Souls is great. It's fantastic. It's perfect. Severance copied it. I know it did. I mean, Severance, they built a time machine and used it to copy Dark Souls to make Severance. I know. Yeah, that's the... I now see the light. Okay, I get it. Dark Souls is like having a kid. It's amazing. It's the most amazing thing in the world. There is no greater sense of accomplishment. But your kid's an asshole. Just saying. It would be better if you had a kid and you could be proud of him and he was actually nice. Number 3, social farming games. And not a game where you farm societies, no, it's a farming game. It's Stardew Valley. It's those Nintendo games that have 3 or 4 names, they're all kind of the same, they're being produced by half of the same studio and one studio and publisher, and the Harvest Moon, the Season Story Leaf stuff, you know the kind of game. Stardew Valley, basically. Stardew Valley proved that this genre sells like hotcakes on PC, something that no publisher in Japan ever tried to do because they're Japanese. They hate PC. If it's not Nintendo or PlayStation, it may as well burn in hell. But oh look, someone made one game like those, a good one, a really good one, an enjoyable, absolute gem of a game. And that person that made it is now kind of a millionaire. So everybody's gonna make them. They're gonna take time, they're gonna take dedication to actually get right, but they're gonna make them. And maybe this genre will wipe away the filth of Farmville forever. Because this genre of games actually has some depth to it, it has some enjoyment to it, it has gameplay, it has exploration, it has interaction. It has quality within it, and it has success already under its belt, so this is gonna take off. 1 year, 2 year, you're gonna see a lot of indie games that are gonna be like this one, and you're gonna see some bigger budget ones. Not a gigantic budget, I mean we are talking about social farming games, but you know, the off-brand Ubisoft thing is probably gonna do it. An Electronic Arts partner, Yale label something, a Calypso Media, a Deep Silver, maybe an Activision, and it's gonna perpetuate. And it's gonna grow until we probably hate it. Number 2, pirates. Now this one kind of caught me off guard, honestly. I'm a fan of pirate games, but they haven't really been at the forefront in terms of trends since probably the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, when the associated game came out, which was actually Sea Dogs 2, and then some other games came out, and people have been trying on and off again to make some games with pirates in them. For example, the creators of Gothic and Risen made 2 pirate games and they kind of sucked, both of them, even though they were kind of still Risen, but they're not good. And what the hell they did to Patty, I still don't understand. And you would have thought that Black Flag would have ushered in a new wave of pirate games like instantly, especially since it came out around the same time as that series on TV called Black Sails, which was amazing, but it didn't. It sort of fizzled out. But now we have Black Wake. We have the upcoming Sea of Thieves. We have a bunch of other more smaller indie games that are drawing attention, and that's building interest. And lo and behold, Ubisoft just announced that they're gonna bring out their own pirate game. Again, a multiplayer focused one, just like Sea of Thieves, just like Black Wake and all the others. This is gonna take off. It's gonna take off for at least a year. It probably won't be like the greatest thing ever, but pirates are gonna be in the forefront for a bit. It may actually take off to the point where we will see a new Firaxis game in the genre, a new Sid Meier's Pirates, hopefully. Or someone's gonna throw some money at Aquila and maybe they'll make a good one. I mean, one that's actually working and doesn't use the same graphics since 2001 or 2003 and doesn't have bugs. They don't have to wait 5 5 years for it to get translated from Russian. This trend is coming, I can feel it. And the number one next big gaming trend is going to be Cyberpunk. It's not the first time that Cyberpunk as a idea, as a setting, as a, well, not a genre, but as a concept was at the forefront. It happened before with Human Revolution's marketing campaign. That superb campaign that was basically just one trailer spread along a couple of months. That thing built so much hype for Human Revolution that Electronic Arts basically rushed a very janky and not all that good Syndicate game that was more Deus Ex inspired in terms of aesthetics than Syndicate in terms of gameplay, and it wasn't Syndicate. It was a shooter that pretended to be Human Revolution. They made it because the hype built around Human Revolution was so big they could just not help themselves. But it stunk, so the idea kind of that fizzled away completely. I mean, it still had some Cyberpunk games like Shadowrun, like Satellite Raiden, which was made as a reaction to the announcement of Syndicate, and we had a lot more indie level type games with this kind of setting. But now we're getting to the big one. Cyberpunk 2077 is gonna murder everything. It's a game made by CD Projekt. It's gonna be bigger than The Witcher 3 in terms of size, scale, complexity, breadth, depth, and you bet your sweet patootie that it's gonna sell amazingly well. It's gonna be a blockbuster's blockbuster. It's gonna bust blocks so hard that blocks that are being bust by it will bust their own blocks in turn because there's just too much bust in them to keep containing a single block. And Cyberpunk's gonna take off again. You're gonna see a lot of games being made in the same kind of vein, with neon everywhere, with cybernetic enhancements, with hacking decks, with Neuromancer, basically. And they're not just gonna be bad, repetitive, not interesting multiplayer games with unlocks. You're gonna have single-player experiences. Some of them may be good, some of them, most of them probably not, but Cyberpunk's gonna be the big boss to defeat, and people will keep trying for quite a while. Sort of like Red Dead Redemption 2, by its announcement, spearheaded a brand new interest in westerns, to the point where we're now sort of at the beginning, we are in a western trend. And those were the top 7 next big gaming trends. I'd like to give a few hopeful mentions to bears, dinosaurs, and oh please make some good melee fighting games again with single player components. Bring me a new Jedi Knight, bring me a new Severance, bring me a new Oni, bring me a good game about punching people in the face that's not in an arena. What other trends do you believe will sprout out in the next couple of years? Please mention them in the comments. Goodbye.